Hello, probers, and welcome to another episode of But It Was Aliens, the extraterrestrial comedy podcast where we dissect and probe alien stories from around the galaxy.
Indeed.
I'm Moonwalker, and I'm your host for today's probe, and he's Kevin the Grey, who will be sitting shotgun with a shotgun, just in case you grey bastards try your luck.
Yeah, for real.
In this week's file, we're taking a look at a woman who has been abducted multiple times.
I feel like you've just got to the end.
No? I guess when I say multiple, I'm not doing this any justice. The woman we're focusing on today is Hilary Porter. She's a Welsh native and would now be in her 70s, I believe. Here is Hilary. Kev, if you would like to take a look.
She looks like Carol fucking Baskin.
She actually does a little. When I said multiple would not be doing it any justice, this is because this young lady has been abducted so many times that she's lost count. Something like that must have happened a ridiculous amount of times for you to forget the amount of times something so significant happened. Unless, I suppose, it just becomes the new normal.
Or you're full of shit. It says you haven't come up with exact details.
But how many times have you gone to the toilet in the last week?
63.
Bullshit. You went 62 times today.
Oh, but then if I was like, I've been so much that I can't remember, you'd probably believe me?
Because you're telling the truth.
Yes and no. But it's also a good cover-up.
No, I believe you. But Hilary hasn't just been sitting on this information throughout her life and not doing anything. She had no recollection of these events until she underwent a crisis abduction, which I'm assuming happened during her time working for the MOD.
Oh, hold on. She's working for the Ministry of Defence.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Oh.
Honestly, I can hear the cogs ticking.
Usually people who work for those sort of organisations are trustworthy, good people. Is she trustworthy?
Not in your terms. To those outside of the UK, that's the Ministry of Defence. She was a draftsman.
Bullshit. Draftsman. She's a woman. She's a draftswoman. She's lying already.
And an artist for them, and has drawn a lot of what she remembers.
She's an artist for the Ministry of Defence. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck do they need artists?
I don't know, because I don't work for the Ministry of Defence. I don't know what every aspect of what they do implies.
They have cameras and whatnot, footage.
Sometimes it's just angles that a camera
Like,
can't
we're
get.
not talking of the 1800s here, before photography was invented. Why the hell would they need an artist?
What if there's things they don't want on camera? Because then that is there. They can't argue that. Whereas if they get someone to draw it, they can turn around and say, oh, that's just someone's drawing. See where I'm coming from there?
No. I'm good to move on, though.
Although she's forgotten how many times she's been abducted, that doesn't mean that she's forgotten the accounts of some of them. Now, this goes way back to when she was 2.
Way back. Back in the time.
Although she says she doesn't remember anything from it, her mother told her that she used to disappear from a secure back garden on a regular basis and would be found up to 1.5 miles away, which is roughly 10 minutes away if you were to walk. As a parent, that must be terrifying, and it didn't happen just once. This happened several times.
Okay, as a pet owner, that is also terrifying, because when I was real little, about 5 years old, my parents had a tortoise called Toby. Rest in peace, Toby. Toby, my parents' back garden was on a big hill, and there was steps to climb up to get to the top of the garden to walk around the house. The tortoise used to get out of its hutch. It shared with, not hutch, sorry, I forget what you call it, like an enclosure it shared with a rabbit. Bearing in mind the fence was high enough that the rabbit couldn't jump over it.
Okay.
The tortoise used to get out of it and be found about 6 houses down in the garden of a neighbour who also had a tortoise. Now, this happened 5 or 6 times. Tortoises can move surprisingly quick when you're not watching them.
The power of love.
This is absolutely genuine. Like, you can ask my family about it. I don't know how it knew the tortoise was there, but it just kept on doing it.
Knew.
Its tortoise balls were tingling.
Can't stop the power of bonus.
But yeah, no one ever saw it, like, on its way, but it just be like, where's the tortoise gone?
Can I ask, what did you name it?
It's called Toby. Toby the tortoise.
You just said.
Yeah.
What did?
It was my mum's when she was like a teenager or whatever. She had it years. It lived to about 60 or 70, I think.
I will let you off because I was going to say, why did you not name it after the Ninja Turtles?
Because it was a tortoise.
But still, as a kid, you wouldn't care.
I'd have gone Michelangelo.
I'd have gone Raphael.
Raphael was the bitchiest one.
Get plucked, son.
He whinged all the time.
Shut up.
You're saying that because you know it's right.
Nope.
I also quite liked Donatello because he was smart.
I hated Leonardo. He was just that twat.
Leader. He was good and trustworthy.
Let's get back from turtles.
And tortoises. Rest in peace, Toby.
I'm not even going to say what I was going to say because it's just weird.
Well, that makes you want to know now, doesn't it?
Let's get back from turtles and tortoises and back to 2-year-olds. Sounds really weird, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, it does.
It's a bit irresponsible of the aliens, if you ask me. If you're going to take her from a back garden, at least put her back where you found her, not near where you found her.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's what happened, but yeah, that would be a bit rude.
Definitely rude. It's definitely what happened.
Talk to someone, they can't even be asked to put them back. Just drop them on the side of the road.
We'll put you near. Make your own way.
What was that Australian case we covered where the lady turned up?
Gundai.
Yeah, Gundai McKay, wasn't it? Where the lady turned up hours away.
I can't remember
the
total distance. But I think it was just under 500 miles away or something, wasn't it?
They just couldn't be asked to drop her back. I mean, obviously that wasn't aliens, but still, the premise is there.
There is, however, one experience which she remembers quite vividly. This happened to her when she was 5 years old. I'm going to warn you, this does get a little bit uncomfortable.
Oh no.
Hilary was out in the field behind her house playing in the long grass when there appeared in front of her a reptilian alien. Now, this reptilian wasn't very tall. It must have been about 5 foot. It had scaly skin, black holes in the nose. I'm assuming those are the nostrils. And it had a little mouth.
So this was either a child reptilian or it was like the outcast reptilian. But the fact it's got to Earth from Mars, because we know that's where reptilians are, suggests it might not be a child.
It grabbed her arms and pulled her towards a disc which was in a dip in the field. They went onto a lift which took them up and then the door slid closed. She was stripped and thrown onto a bed of some kind and she could see consoles, lights and little men moving around the room. They took a sharp instrument and pressed it right up into her body. She was screaming but they continued and then she can't remember anything after that. So I'm assuming she passed out after that.
I really don't want to ask this, but I feel it's important to know in which way they went up the body. Are we talking typical anal probe or not? Doesn't say?
Doesn't say.
It's grim regardless.
It literally says it pressed and...
I feel like I'd be making jokes about this if it was an adult, but I just can't bring myself to do it.
Not when it's a 5-year-old. I told you it was about to get a little bit uncomfortable.
Ew.
But she says she still has a scar from the event.
Bloody hell.
And in a video I watched, she shows a small scar on her leg, which she says is obviously from that event. And if you scroll down, she has drawn...
What the hell is he doing to her?
What she saw.
Right, I'm going to start at the top of this picture, whereby there is a saucer or a white glowing disc in a field. Typical flying saucer with landing tripod gear, it looks like. But predominantly in the middle of the picture, there is a... It doesn't even look like a reptilian. It looks more like a grey. Dragging this girl in... Well, it could be a girl or a boy, to be fair. In pyjamas and a hat across some grass. The head is right on his cock. It looks like his face... You get where I'm going.
I get where you go. What are you currently thinking?
That we've got a face raping alien
So it's an alien.
in the story. I'd just like to clearly state story. I'm immediately suspicious of her because she
Factual
looks
account.
like Carol Baskin. As soon as I saw that, it's weird, but I just made up in my head that she's lying. But
Well, that's what that bitch Carol Baskin.
so where she was taken from home.
She was in a field behind our house.
Okay, and she was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Where were her family or friends?
I suppose.
Was this 60s, did you say?
So back in that kind of era,
People were laid back.
yeah, like your
Yeah.
back door, you wouldn't even bother locking your house up.
Yeah, to be fair, I've made this comment to someone before, but like, whilst obviously paedophiles did exist, they didn't exist in the media. Like, people didn't talk about them and whatnot in the 80s when we were growing up, or the 90s, rather.
So to allow your kids to play outside was just
Yeah,
normal.
you just didn't think of things
You
like that. And
Think
then,
of the dangers of it. Whereas today, bloody hell, you'd.
I guess we're a lot more aware. I don't know. I mean, was this always going on, the type of things that happen now, and we just didn't know about it, or have people got more twisted?
I think it was, but I also think the fact that we know about it now, we're seeing so much more of it.
Yeah, maybe because we're more advanced and also perhaps a little bit more socially aware. Things don't go unnoticed so much, whereas obviously we know, for example, about people like Jimmy Savile these days, whereas when he was active, we didn't necessarily ever think of it.
No.
Dirty bastard.
So as Hilary grew up, she left Wales, but was so traumatised by what had happened to her, it took her 4 decades to go back. According to Hilary, there is a stretch of road that lies between Swansea and Cardiff. This stretch is a hot spot for alien activity.
Weirdly, not weirdly, I've read before that Wales is quite a hotspot for UFO activity, as is Lincolnshire in the UK, or in England.
Ooh.
Just one of those things.
Be safe, buddy. Of all the abductions, Hilary remembers only 2 have occurred in Wales. One of which occurred in 1970, and she was driving back from a holiday with her husband at the time, now ex, as they headed to Severn Crossing, which I think is Severn Bridge. As when I looked it up, it gave me second Severn Crossing, which opened in 96, so couldn't have been that. So from Severn Crossing, they black out and wake up at a garage outside of Cardiff, which is around 50 minutes away. That's a 50-minute blackout. If you ask me, though, the aliens here done them a favour, saved them a bit of time for their trip. Maybe they were tired, so the aliens beamed them for a bit and then dropped them off when they started to stir. And before you tell me that they stopped to get petrol, their petrol gauge hadn't moved.
Okay.
50-minute trip and your petrol gauge hasn't moved.
What car were they driving?
Does not say. But you can imagine back then cars weren't very fuel efficient. To the point that you could drive 15 minutes and it wouldn't move.
Who witnessed this? Was it just Carol Baskin?
And her husband.
Has her husband
Don.
gone on record? Has he gone
I have no idea what his name is. I couldn't find
Okay,
anything
so it's
from
just
him.
her word.
It's just her word.
Yeah.
There was a price to pay for the lift, though. Once they got home, Hilary found triangular suction marks on her stomach. These marks quickly disappeared, and it wasn't until nearly a decade later that she started suffering flashbacks and seeing herself on a hexagon-shaped ship.
Ooh. Well, that doesn't necessarily match up with her viewing of the white saucer earlier, does it?
But she's been abducted multiple times, remember?
By different ships.
Yeah. After years of studying this sort of phenomena, she has come to the conclusion that they were teleported to that location from another dimension.
Sorry, she's come to the conclusion that who was teleported?
She was.
She's teleported from another dimension. Well,
to that location. So
it wouldn't-
they were taken originally.
from a different dimension and placed into our dimension.
No, they were taken from our dimension. And then when they were put back at the garage,
It was
they
a different
were
dimension.
teleported
Well,
from.
I call bullshit then. I call bullshit. What?
I don't like the way that simply because she looks like Carol
No,
Baskin.
that's not why. Because if they've moved from one dimension to another, either she would already exist in the other dimension, or she wouldn't at all.
Okay.
So therefore, we'd be like, who the frick is this woman who suddenly just appeared? Like, to say she's been placed from one dimension
No.
into another.
When they were initially driving, they got taken for 50 minutes and then placed back
In the same dimension.
in the same dimension.
Okay, I'm still thinking she's absolutely full of shit, but there's nothing to suggest she's been to another dimension.
Well, she studies this sort of phenomena, and that's the conclusion she's come up with. I would trust her. She studies it.
She doesn't study it, she's an artist.
And I'm also not saying she's trustworthy.
But hold on, she's an
Because
artist.
That's your line. For the MOD.
Just have a look at that picture again. She's a fucking artist. It looks like I drew the picture. It's not even coloured between the lines.
I want you to draw a picture like that so I can put them side by side and I can judge them.
I'll do it for Noel's Art Club.
Okay. Tag him. I want that on Saturday. Abduction number 2.
Hold on. She said she remembers 2 abductions whilst in Wales. You're about to tell me about a second, and we've got the petrol one. We've already heard about the one when she was 5.
She didn't remember that one. She was told it.
Told it
That
by
came
who?
Back.
Told it by who?
Which one?
The 5-year-old
Oh, the
one.
5-year-old one.
She must remember it to be able to tell us.
We'll get to that.
I call bullshit. Wah. Twice.
Abduction number 2.
Number 2, a.k.a. poo, a.k.a. shit, a.k.a. bullshit. Continue. It's just so full of shit.
After this event,
It's just going to get worse, isn't it? Come on.
she must have left Wales because it wasn't until she returned in 2009 to visit a friend in Laneley that she managed to drive through the hotspot unscathed, only to be taken from her bed within a day of turning up.
That's unlucky.
Now, this is where I had to make an assumption, as in my research, the next piece of info is separate, but references Wales. And as we know, there was only 2 abductions. So it must be true. So I'm moonwalking with it. After being taken from her friends, when she woke up, she had a black eye. There are a few common signs that she's been taken. Following morning, she'll tend to feel unwell, have migraines, fresh scars, bruises, and even bloody marks in or on fresh and bloody marks in her bed or on her clothing.
Grotty.
She explains that she had a metal implant in her head too. A doctor told her it's just wax, but when her current husband Ken puts his monitor, which detects bugging devices, near her ear, it goes off. Spooky, right?
No.
They've got to be monitoring her from it, if you ask me. Thank God for Ken. But before we get to Ken,
Yes, we're getting to Ken.
what are your thoughts?
I was going to ask about Ken, but I'll be patient. All my thoughts are about him and why he's got a bugging device and why he's checking her head. A doctor told her it's just wax.
Mm-hmm. Are you thinking that doctor's in on it? He's one of them.
No, I'm not. So she only remembers 2 abductions, but so far we've got 4 that she remembers in Wales. But she's experienced this throughout her life. You said something about her being scared in Wales only?
That was the major ones. So
Okay. Has she been tested for epilepsy?
I do not know.
Has she been hospitalised, admitted at hospital with psychosis or any such condition.
Could you get a job in the MOD if you had?
Yeah, they can't discriminate on account of mental health.
Then I don't know.
That's another Ken question. Oh, maybe not. So her current husband, Ken, so she's had a previous husband, was he violent?
Could not get any information on him whatsoever.
Yeah, he's distanced himself from this lady. I can understand that as long as he's not the violent one. Yeah, I just want to find out about Ken now.
For years, Hilary thought she was suffering alone until the crisis abduction, the one I mentioned earlier. It awoke her memories. Pushed to the brink, she decided to seek out people with similar stories. And it was at one of these she met her current husband, Ken.
Yes! Come on, Ken.
Ken
This is gonna be
runs
juicy.
Beams, the British Earth and Aerial Mystery Society,
Of course he does.
and is an experiencer himself.
Of course he is.
I don't like your tone.
I love my tone. I knew Ken was going to be a goldmine. I don't know why.
After meeting so many like-minded people, and after her experiences, she now helps counsel experiencers. She says that meeting someone like Ken that understood her was important. It helped her realise she wasn't off her trolley.
Yeah, she's not off her trolley.
Ken believes that these aliens have a hierarchy. The Greys are the servants, whilst the reptilians are higher up, and then above them are of the humanoid type, and then above them are the cowled beings. These beings can't be looked at. When you do, they blast a bright light, which is a message straight into your mind.
This is interesting because this is now reminding me of the hierarchy in Huggins' story, where you had the little hairy guys.
Jiminy Crickets.
I was going to say the Jiminy Cricket perverts were potentially in charge. Then you had like the almost Nordic-esque Crescent with her space titties.
I watched...
It's interesting. Can I just roll back just briefly?
Yeah, go for it.
Beams. So the British Earth and Aerial Mystery Society.
Yes.
Do they take donations? Is it something that makes money?
I do not know, but I obviously for this case I had to read a bit into them.
Yeah.
I'm going to be probing them.
Okay, cool.
But what also, the bright light I spoke of, when they blast that bright light into your mind, reminds me of the film Knowing with Nicolas Cage.
I can't think of it. I might not have seen it.
So in the film, his son gets this letter from a time capsule, and on it is literally just numbers written. And Nicolas Cage is a mathematician or something, and he figures out that they're actually dates when all these calamities happen.
Did that come out before or after this story?
I don't know the year, but his son and some other girl, like other people around the world, get taken too. I can't remember if they're messengers from God or if they're aliens, but they get taken to another world. But to stop Nicolas Cage stopping them, at certain points they literally just open their mouths and these bright beams of light come out.
See, this also reminds me again of Huggins. When Huggins went to touch and heal all the children in like the drawers on the craft, he was absolutely spent. And then, because he felt so awful and exhausted, he was guided to walk into a bright white light, and he suddenly felt amazing and full of energy again.
This is also in Betty's case. The Door.
The South Park door, yeah.
It's a lot of references to bright white light.
We haven't said that any of those cases were aliens.
Well, we're about to. Now, since Hilary has been with Ken, although the abductions have slowed, there's still been visits. One evening, after putting her daughter to bed, she came down the stairs. There was a large, shadowy figure at her window. She froze on the spot. After a short while, this figure raised its hand. After this, she did the same and said she no longer felt scared.
She made a llama noise.
The figure glided backwards towards the end of the garden, shot sideways, paused for a second, and then was gone. I'm going to shock you now, Kev. I have documented evidence of this in the form of a photograph. Actually, scratch that. 2 photographs.
So we've gone from aliens to Slender Man.
One depicting the figure, and the second has Ken and the alien superimposed. Just to give you an idea of how tall this being was.
Oh no.
Now, can you scroll and take a look at that picture in
Would you like
front
me
of
to
you?
do them one by one or both at the same time?
One by one.
Okay, so this looks a little bit like... it's a photograph looking outside into a garden through a glass door, and within the glass door there is a black figure that looks like it's got a space helmet and a visor with a serial number on it. The figure is nearly at the top of the door, so it's probably around about 6'6"-ish. In fact, that would be he'd probably be about 6'3"-ish, wouldn't he? Yeah. He looks like he's wearing an oven glove. You can't really make out any detail on him. He's very blurry for some reason, despite being able to clearly make out most of the other things within the photo.
Okay. Would you like to scroll down and see the other picture?
Oh, hold on. One more thing about him. His arm does look very long, almost like it's not a real arm. Like the start of the arm goes straight down, then it's very rigid at the elbow, and yeah, the arm looks like if it was laying straight, it would actually touch the floor. It's that long.
Mm-hmm. Good observation.
Right. Now it looks like Darth Vader.
And as you can see in this one,
Yeah.
Ken is outside, and you can see the figure is quite a lot taller than Ken.
Yeah. So Ken looks to be probably within the mid to upper 5 foot range. Oh, in fact, it says there Ken is a good 5'8". So judging by that, the creature would look to be about 6'8", Darth Vader. Who made this picture?
Don't you mean who took this picture?
Well, no, because you said it's superimposed.
Oh, the second.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's Hilary?
So the fact they're able to make this themselves, they've put a figure so clearly into the second picture, makes me suspicious that's just what they did with the first. And in fact, is that I think it's superimposed, but it's also possible they just made a figure themselves, which would explain why it looks so rigid for some reason. But yeah, I just don't know about that.
Now, you're thinking there must be a reason to this. Why is she being targeted so often?
That did cross my mind earlier, but now I'm just looking at Ken. He doesn't really look how I imagined him to look.
How did you imagine him to look?
Like
Don.
For a little while. But then I thought he'd look a bit like a technological whiz, maybe in a suit, like an IT salesman or something.
Okay.
But he actually just looks a little bit creepy.
I can see you.
Poor Ken.
Well, how would you describe him?
Short. I wouldn't say short. 5'8" isn't necessarily short. Just looks like your typical old guy with grey hair,
In a knitted jumper,
white hair.
waving at your window like he's looking in.
Hi.
Yeah, maybe it's not him looking creepy so much as the fact that he's just looking into someone's house waving.
The way they've got him posed.
Yeah. Well, I don't think... Is he imposed or is the creature imposed beside him?
No, I said him posing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry, where were you?
Now you're thinking there must be a reason to this. Why is she being targeted so often? Well, there is. Hilary claims that they abduct women and steal their eggs. They also steal sperm from men and create hybrid children in space.
Oh, for God's sake.
And get us to nurture and look after them on Earth. She claims there's loads of hybrid children walking the Earth as we speak.
Right, so they steal semen and eggs to create hybrid children. Wouldn't that just be human children if they're using both human sperm and human eggs?
Maybe they are using the sperm from male aliens to fertilize the eggs to see what happens that way, and then also the sperm from human males to fertilize. alien eggs to
I'll
see.
give you that is possible, but it is not specified. The way they have explained it doesn't suggest that. And it also suggests that, again, I hate mentioning this bastard, but it's sounding like Romanik again, isn't it? With his frickin' starseed bullshit. we're special.
Now, why her and why the hotspot in Wales?
More why her for me.
Well, in Hilary's words, it's to harvest their superior genetic makeup.
What? Why is she superior?
It's her superior genetic makeup. But is it because she's just alien crack?
She's crackers.
Now, if we just go over some of these things again. So we have the amount of times that she was abducted, from 2, 5, 2 times in Wales.
But then 4 times in Wales.
Yeah. All the multiple times that she has been abducted. But I thought if I go into too much of that, we're going to have like a 3-part. The stretch of road, black eye, migraines, cuts, bruises, the metal implant. Ken.
We never covered the metal implant.
Well, she has it.
Yeah, we said Ken detects it, but then we never got further into that. Good prompting, you reminded me.
Well, the reason he has that stuff is because he's with beams.
Yeah, but he says there's something metal in her mind. We didn't hear about how or why.
No, it detects bugs. So if you were to go into a room and you want to search it for bugs, if you run beams,
Why do you need to know about?
you are making sure that you are not being bugged by the military.
That's full of shit.
So you put that thing up against
Alright.
your wife's head.
If you're that
and you
sure
check that.
there's something metal in your mind, you go, or in your head rather, you go and get that checked out. The doctor is going to give you a scan.
Wax.
They're not just going to say it's wax. If you're adamant there's something there, you can get scans, and they would push for this, especially if they had the supporting evidence of a bloody bug detector. Look, there's something in my head. This metal detecting device
Maybe
is
they
going
don't
off.
believe him. Maybe it's a fault. They think it's faulty.
Maybe they're both full of shit and don't have any evidence of it.
It's wax, goddammit. So,
Sir?
can you tell me what the name of our podcast is?
I'm not saying that it was aliens. You tried that before. It's not going to work.
I need to find another way. So, what is your conclusion?
I'm not saying that it was aliens.
I, on the other hand,
Don't you fucking lie to me.
would totally like to delve into beams and find out more.
Yeah.
Which is something I plan on doing.
Okay.
But for this case, it's not aliens.
I wondered whether you were going to turn this into a 2-parter when you said that would make it a 3-parter. I was like, no, these guys are stupid. But I would like to hear more about beams, yeah.
But no, this isn't aliens.
It might be Slender Man.
I think something very, just like Huggins, something traumatic happened.
To her.
Yep. As a child.
Did you see anything of her
this is-
talking or anything to get a sense of her?
Yeah, but they're not long.
I wasn't asking to see them myself, just because sometimes when you see someone talking about their experiences,
Yeah, you can, how they kind of move, how they react, stuff like that. There's,
like Huggins comes across very differently
Quite.
to Romanik, for example.
but no, there's no, it sounds really harsh saying this. She seems batshit crazy.
Well, that was my take, yeah. Crackers, I think, was the word I used.
She starts going off on a political rant
Oh,
partway through as well.
okay.
And I was just like, okay. But no, it's not aliens. Unfortunately. Why do I say unfortunately? at the end?
You want to believe.
You lot are all still safe. This one is not aliens.
Yeah, they're not coming to take you as a 5-year-old and do horrid things to you.
Well, that's it for today. I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone that listens, whether you listen once or every week. Thank you.
But thank you more if you do listen every week.
Too right. Probers. Right, for our socials, you can find us on Facebook at But It Was Aliens. We also have a group on Facebook, which is Extraterrestrial Towers.
Join us.
Join us! Join us!
You start off on the ground floor. You stay on the ground floor.
I expected you to say something else there. And you
I was going to
blank.
say that you can work your way up to floor 1, floor 2, etc. But then I thought, no, I like the space here. It's nice not having any neighbours.
So, in the group, we will post memes, stuff about the episodes, just general chit chat, really. If there's anything you'd like us to probe, you can mention it there. We also have Twitter at But It Was Aliens and Instagram at But It Was Aliens Podcast. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you.
Kev,
Yes.
have you ever wondered where those cuts come from?
What cuts?
Have you ever wondered where those bruises come from?
What bruises?
Do you ever randomly get a pain in your rectum? If you answered yes to any of those, I advise you to #probe.